Alright, so tonight we are going to be painting this beautiful beach scene with some palm trees. Okay? On my palette I have Phthalo Green, Hansa Yellow, Burnt Sienna, Titanium White, and Phthalo Blue. Okay, I'm going to start with a flat wash brush, and I'm going to come in and add some white to my phthalo, and I'm just going to go across the top. We're going to go maybe a third of the way down. I am working on some mixed media or Bristol paper right now. This gives a very smooth surface for the paint. So if you're working with a canvas, it may be a bit rougher than you'll see here on my paper. So you'll see I just added a touch more white to my paint to lighten it as I go down. If you've taken one of my landscape tutorials before, you'll remember this technique. It does not have to be perfectly smooth. Kind of looks like a natural sky when it doesn't look perfectly smooth. So the streakiness is okay. If you don't like the streakiness, feel free to blend a bit more as you're painting. I'm gonna add just a touch of water to my brush just to smooth this out a little bit. Paper does absorb the paint a bit quicker than a canvas does, so you have to work a smidge faster. Okay, just add a touch more straight blue there. Alright, so the way it looks, it should be slightly darker on the top, and then as you go down, you see I'm adding some more dark just to give that contrast there. Okay, so slightly darker on the top, and then as you go down, whoops, it will be lighter. So again, just wetting my brush a bit to smooth it out some. I don't care about all the streaks, but just getting rid of some of them. Okay. All right. There we go. So I went down a little bit further because I'm going to be painting over this in just a second, and I don't want, I wanted a little overlap. Alright, so I'm rinsing out my brush. I'm not too worried about it getting it completely cleaned off. Okay. And I'm going to come in here with a straight edge. Anything will work, it does not have to be a ruler. I'm just going to overlap slightly and just dip right in the straight blue color. Hold my brush vertically and just go straight across. This is going to give us the horizon line. Okay. I'm going to take just a little bit of that blue and just go on across. Again, because I'm using the paper, I will wet my brush a little bit. If you're using canvas, you do not have to do that. I'm just being careful not to go over that horizon line there. Okay, so now I'm gonna mix a pretty turquoise ocean color. You'll see this in here. So that is gonna be my phthalo green with some phthalo blue. So I'd say it's probably more green than blue. And then some white. Now you can be the judge of how light you want this color to go. We are going to be adding some dimension to it with, you know, adding some darker shades, etc. in a bit. But you be the judge here. There we go. I think I like that color. And I'm just gonna go, again, because I'm on the paper, you don't have to do this if you're using canvas. I'm gonna come in and wet my brush and then just kind of go back and forth until I get just about an inch or two from the bottom. As I get closer to where I want to stop, I may add some more white, because as you get closer to the coast, the water does tend to get a little bit lighter. And as is typical, I didn't mix enough, so I'm gonna go through, make some more. Touch of white. And a dash of water. And there we go. All right, I'm gonna add some more white, because as I mentioned, we're getting closer to the edge. And I'm just gonna go just about to there. Okay, I am not going to worry about this bottom edge being too smooth or straight across, because we're gonna be doing some sand and sea foam, and it just doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, so I'm gonna come up here and just blend this a bit more. So my paint dried pretty fast on the paper. There we go. I just don't want to have that hard edge like I had. Okay. So now we are going to make a sandy beach color. If you don't have burnt sienna, you can use burnt umber, which is, I know, a more common color, and that will work out fine. Excuse me. You'll just probably want to add a little bit of yellow to the color. Okay, so I've got this sandy color, and I'm not mixing it too perfectly because it gives it a more natural look to have that, you know, streaky mottled look to it. Muddled look, not mottled. Look to it. And I'm gonna come right up to where my green ends, even overlapping some. And again, not worrying too much about the edges, because I'm gonna go over it. Okay. So I'm gonna switch from my flat wash brush now, and I'm gonna go with a round brush. I believe this is a size 6. Yes, this is a size 6 round brush. And I'm going to wet my brush, dab the water off, and then just get some, whoops, there's a little green in there, that's okay. Just some plain white paint. And I'm gonna come through and just come in and tap some white here for how I want the seafoam to look. And don't worry, we're gonna be fixing this. It's not gonna look exactly like this here. This is just an abstract representation of the seafoam. Now at this point, if you have glazing liquid, you can use glazing liquid. If you don't, you can just use water. So I'm not washing my brush, I'm just dipping it in the water. And I'm coming over this and going back over my foam, turning my brush in different angles here, just to kind of change the way it looks, smoothing it out here and there, giving you that real seafoam appearance. Okay. And you'll see some of the green is coming into it. That's okay, because when you're at the beach, you see the colors through it. Okay. Now I'm just going to dip back in white, come back in, and add just some straight white in places. This will have texture. It will take a little bit longer to dry because it will have these dots of paint on it. If you don't want that, you can definitely just smooth it out. I just like the texture of it. Okay. Now I'm really getting some water in there, wiping off some of that paint. And I'm going to come in here. Oops, that's too much. Maybe I'll add some of the turquoise. Dab it off. And I'm really coming in here and just smoothing out this right here. Okay, and I'm going to come in without the water and just blend this a bit. Doesn't have to be perfect. Just blending that edge just a smidge. Here we go. All right. So now I'm going to jump up and do the clouds. Get all that green out of your brush and just dip white in white, excuse me. Oops, I've got a bunch of paint on my brush. Okay. So we will be painting over this, so I'm not too worried about exactly how it looks. But you're just gonna do tiny little circles in all sorts of different directions here. Give that natural cloud appearance, and as the paint starts coming off of the brush, it will thin out a bit and will give that natural kind of fluffy look that you expect from a cloud. Now yours on the canvas will dry out faster than mine here on the paper, so you'll maybe be dipping a bit more into your paint than I will. And let's see. This one cloud, I'm just going to kind of make it go all the way across. Add some interest in the center of the sky there. Make this come down a little further. So it's really just little circles and just blending it as you go. Okay. Come in over here. Okay, so this is all kind of monotone, so I'm going to go back over where I really want the cloud to stand out. So. If your paint is too thick, feel free to add a little water to it. You really want, you know, some of it to be faded and some of it to really be bright, like when you look at clouds out in nature. If you've seen some of my other cloud tutorials, I do it slightly different ways. Feel free to use any technique you prefer here. There is no right or wrong way to do your clouds. It's all in how you want it to look. All right. So while that dries, I'm going to move on to doing some of these stripes in here, okay? So I'm just going to go right, this is with a little flat brush, about a little less than 1/4 of an inch. And I'm just really pressing it to flatten the bristles. And I'm just going to come through every so often and do some lines here. And I know this looks really stark, and that's okay. We're gonna go over it with more of that little turquoisey color, and it will blend it out a bit. This is just to add a little bit of interest to your water. All right, so I'm going in with the turquoise, and I'm just gonna kind of come over where I made those marks and just blend it slightly. You don't have to do a lot of blending, but just enough to kind of smooth it out a little bit. This is something you can kind of get really finicky with, or you can just kind of let it go. You can do as many of those stripes as you want. Or as few. I like to say as many or as few as you like. Just make sure you've blended it some. Okay. So now we're going to come in and do the palms. So I'm going to go back to this flat brush here. Just got to get all of the paint out of it. You're going to want to make sure your clouds are dry before you attempt this. I'm going to mix what I call like a leafy green color. It's the phthalo green with some yellow. Okay. And I'm going to start up here in the corner and just come down a bit. And the leaves on a palm curve down, so we're just going to follow that sort of direction. Okay, now you see this is very transparent. Don't worry, we are going to go back over it a few times. Okay, and you can do as many palms as you want here. Just always making sure the palms kind of go down. And I think I'm going to do a big one coming down into my water. And this one's going to be pretty big, and it's going to overlap this other one. I'm not sure if you can hear the screaming noises. That is not my children. That is actually, I guess, some sort of TV program that they are watching upstairs, entertaining themselves while Mommy gets a little bit of work done. All right, so now I'm going to take that same color, some green, some yellow, adding a touch more yellow this time, and then some white. And I'm going to go back over the same things we did. And I'm not being too careful. If they get a little wider, it's fine. Again, we're going to go over this some more. So I'm not too worried about it. And a big one. And we're just going to keep doing this, filling in. Okay, and I mentioned filling in, so I may come in with a bit more in here to add some interest and depth here. Give it a little bit of a fuller look. Now, without cleaning my brush, I'm just dipping in the straight green, and I'm gonna go over it again. And you can see as we go along, this is really adding some texture. And you're probably looking at it going, oh, those are such wide, there's no point to the end of them. Don't worry, we're gonna fix that as we go along here. Oh, got a big blob of paint. All right. And you'll see on some of them I'm not hitting the exact same spot where the other leaf was. That's okay. This is all, like I said, an abstract representation. Ooh, got some blue on my arm. And it will all work out in the end. All right, so now I'm gonna switch over to my round brush again. This time I may even add a little bit more white. And add some water to it to thin it out. I'm really going to twist my brush here, and now's where we're going to start getting that point. So we will just gently come in and work until we get that point, okay? And if you have to come from the bottom towards it, that's perfectly fine. Okay? Don't worry, we'll do more layers too, so. Okay, got that a little too thick, but still. This one is mostly covered, so I'm not super duper worried about it. You do want to be able to see it through the other one. brush. Okay, so I'm going to come in okay, and just being a little bit more careful than I was before. And again, I keep saying it, this is an abstract representation, so don't be too frustrated with the little details, okay? This is all for fun and just to give the illusion of the palm. Okay, and you just keep going.